Most people think the night shift is peaceful, maybe even boring. They imagine an empty building, quiet hallways, and the slow hum of fluorescent lights. But talk to any janitor who has worked alone after midnight, and you will hear a different story, one filled with strange sounds, unexplained movements, and moments that stay with them for years. Tonight, we're diving into several disturbing true janitor horror stories. Moments that actually happened to real people who took care of buildings long after everyone else had gone home. So before you settle in, dim the lights for this one, because these stories are about the things that lurk in places we all think are harmless. One janitor shared that he worked in an old school built in the 1950s. The place was outdated, always creaking, but he didn't mind. What bothered him was the basement. To get there, he had to walk down a narrow staircase lined with aged pipes, the kind that make a loud knocking sound now and then. Every night, he'd turn off the basement lights before heading upstairs. But as he walked away, he would see the faint glow creeping back under the door. He would check again, and sure enough, the lights were on. At first, he shrugged it off as bad wiring. Old building, old problems. But then he started hearing things, bare footsteps shuffling on the concrete, and the slow sound of someone breathing in the dark. One night, after switching off the lights for the third time, he stood still at the bottom of the stairs, holding his breath. For a moment, everything was silent. Then he heard it, footsteps running toward him from the far end of the basement. He bolted upstairs, slamming the door behind him. The next day, he asked an older teacher about the basement. She quietly told him that decades ago, a maintenance worker vanished in a tunnel beneath the school. They sealed the tunnel, but according to her, some nights it sounded like he was still wandering down there, looking for a way out. The janitor never worked a night shift again. Another janitor shared a story about an office building that looked perfectly normal during the day, bright lobby, glass walls, modern furniture. But at night, the place took on a different energy. The lobby walls were covered with giant mirrors, and he noticed that sometimes, when he walked past them, something felt off. One night, while vacuuming, he caught a glimpse of a man standing behind him in the reflection. He turned around instantly, but no one was there. He laughed it off, thinking he was just tired, but the next night it happened again. Same tall figure, same stillness. And this time the figure was a little closer. He told himself he was imagining it, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. On the fourth night, he saw the reflection once more, but this time something changed. The man in the mirror smiled. The janitor stood frozen because he wasn't smiling. His own face in the reflection was terrified. When he turned around, the lobby was empty, and yet he felt the air shift behind him, as if someone had just walked past. He reported it to building management, and the response shocked him. They already knew. Several security guards had quit after claiming to see the same figure in the mirrors, always behind them, always too close. The janitor quit the very next day and refused to walk into that building ever again. The third story came from a hospital janitor working the overnight shift. Hospitals are unsettling at the best of times, but the one he worked in had an unused wing that had been closed for years. He still had to clean the hallways outside of it. The windows were boarded, the lights flickered, and the place felt heavy. One night, he heard someone whispering his name. At first, he thought it was a nurse playing a prank, but the whisper came from inside a locked supply room. When he put his ear against the door, the whisper stopped. He opened the room, saw dust everywhere, and quickly closed it. The next night, the whisper returned, louder, more distorted. Almost like two voices speaking at once. He demanded, "Who's in there?" But the only response was a faint laugh. On the third night, the whisper turned into a full scream, and the locked door began to shake, violently, as if someone was trapped inside trying to claw their way out. Terrified, he ran to the nurse's station. When he explained what happened, one older nurse looked at him with a pale expression and said that decades ago, before the wing closed, the room he heard the noises from had been used to restrain psychiatric patients. One patient in particular had been known for screaming and begging to be let out. They found him dead in that room one morning, and soon after, the entire wing was shut down. The janitor never walked past that area alone again. Janitors see things no one else sees. They enter buildings when they are empty, at the time of night when strange things come out, when shadows linger too long and noises echo where they shouldn't. These stories are real. Told by people who weren't expecting anything supernatural, people who were just doing their jobs. But sometimes, the buildings they worked in had other inhabitants, ones that didn't want to be forgotten. If you've ever worked the night shift or been alone in a big empty building after dark, you know the feeling, that slight tension in your chest, the awareness that you might not be alone. So as we end tonight's video, ask yourself, which story disturbed you the most? And if you have a terrifying experience of your own, feel free to share it. Just remember, next time you're alone after hours, pay attention to what you hear, and more importantly, pay attention to what you see behind you.